Hey everybody, how's it going? 5th, 2020, as we get closer to the next AEW pay-per-view, which is All Out. Shout out to everybody in the chat room for tuning in. Thank you for your viewership and support. And thank you to everybody watching this on demand as well. Let's go ahead and get started. We had a first-time appearance on this week's Dynamite. We had some blood. We had a lot of fun, action, and excitement. No Excalibur. Now, keep in mind that this week's Dynamite was actually taped last week, and because of that, whatever decision is going to be made with Excalibur, we will not know if AEW is going to keep him off for a long time or if they'll bring him back next week. That's still up in the air. Excalibur has not posted anything about his status with the company. Tony Khan has been silent. Nobody in AEW has said anything about what happened with the racist promo from PWG approximately 17 years ago. Now, we kicked off the show. We had the intro and we went straight to our first match, which was the Elite teaming up with FTR against the Dark Order. Everybody in the ring to start us off, and it was Nick and Brody Lee that began the match. Matt tagged in, and the two of them attempted to double team Brody, but they could not get him off his feet. And we had FTR and the Elite working together during the match. They did a triple suplex to 4 of the Dark Order guys, and then they tried a triple figure 4, but then Dark Order members all broke out of it, and the baby faces all butted heads. Action went back and forth, but then during the match, we had Dash Harwood get injured, and he was carried out by Wheeler, and this was creating a handicapped situation. Adam Page got the hot tag, came in, and he did a big moonsault off the top onto the Dark Order members. Young Bucks hit the super kicks to everybody, and then Brody Lee was about to be finished off with Omega and Page's finishing move, the Buckshot Lariat and V-Trigger combo. But then the Dark Order members made the save, pulled the Elite members out of the ring, and then Brody hit his lariat to pin Adam Page. So yes, the Dark Order, their push continues. Brody Lee gets the win here. Apparently there are some technical issues. I'm not sure who is actually watching this right now, so we're just going to roll with the punches. It is live. Sometimes there are issues. YouTube backs up. I apologize for the issues. We're just going to go with it. If somebody out there is able to watch this, let the chat room know. Try refreshing the video. Maybe that will work. We're just going to move on with this recap. We had the Best Friends arrive to Daly's place via their mom's minivan. So a continuation of that angle from several weeks ago. And of course, you kind of sensed something was going to happen. If you have watched wrestling long enough and a big deal is made out of a vehicle, you know something bad's going to happen to it. We had Jon Moxley cut a promo, a pre-taped promo, sitting at a staircase, and he talked about how in the early days of his career, he was advised against doing death matches. And he said that maybe those people that told him not to do these matches were correct. But he said he would not change a thing. And he understands Darby Allin because he was in that place at one time. Darby Allin is a risk taker. Moxley said now he's older, he's the voice of reason, and he doesn't want to be the person who ends Darby's career. But the title is on the line, and Moxley said he has to do what he has to do to win, and he just had one piece of advice for Darby: when it's time to stay down, stay down. Nice little promo here from Moxley. We had Santana and Ortiz in a tag team match against the Best Friends. By the way, next week is going to be FTR hosting Tag Team Appreciation Week. We got a lot of tag matches set up for next week, but we had this match, which was won by the Best Friends. Santana and Ortiz attempted to single out Trent, but then Chuck made the save, preventing the Street Sweeper finisher, and then Trent, with a roll through, pinned Ortiz. Best Friends picked up the victory here. But this was not the last of these two teams on this show, so stay tuned for that. We had MJF in his campaign office, and he was yelling at the workers there about the poster not being aligned properly on the wall, not being straight. He asked one of the secretaries working there about the poll results, and apparently in the polls for All Out, MJF is winning 100% to 88% for Moxley, or minus 88% for Moxley, minus 88%. We had Matt Hardy in the ring. He cut a promo, and he said that when he came to AEW, he had this idea that he would introduce the AEW fans to all of the different Matt Hardy personas. However, he has been listening to the AEW audience. AEW listens to the audience, and they want to see Matt Hardy focus on being himself, being old school, stronger than death Matt Hardy. This is news to me personally. I thought fans liked the Broken Matt character, so this was interesting. I'm really curious if people were complaining that much about the Broken Matt character. What, that he's too sports entertainment for the sports-centric AEW, even though we got Orange Cassidy and the Dark Order and all that stuff. But yeah, this was kind of interesting. I'm surprised that Matt's just going to do this gimmick where he's basically doing what he was doing in WWE. Like, wasn't the whole point of AEW for him to creatively express himself? Now, maybe this could be a good thing where Matt is just Matt, and if you push him too far, then he goes back to that persona and brings out Broken Matt for special occasions, kind of like what Finn Balor was doing with the Demon. Maybe this could work. We'll have to wait and see. This is something where I will definitely give it some time and see how it plays out. And Matt said he wants to focus on the younger talents. He said he tried to help Sammy Guevara, but Sammy basically gave him a middle finger to the face. So now he has no desire to help Sammy. Instead, he has a desire to hurt Sammy. Kind of sounds like the Fiend there, the help and the hurt. Anyways, Sammy attempted to sneak into the ring and attack Matt, but Matt knew he would come. And he turned around. There was a big brawl. Matt set up a table, but you know how this goes. I say it several times on my streams. Whenever somebody sets up the table, they usually end up being the one that goes through it. And sure enough, Sammy threw a chair right in the face of Matt, and Matt got busted open big time. He was bleeding buckets shortly after this chair got thrown in his face. Matt was laid out on the table, and Sammy did this 630 dive, I think, off the top of the stage onto Matt, through the table, and then you could see Matt wearing the crimson mask. I thought this was a really good angle. I enjoyed it very much. Again, I'm curious as to see what's going on with Matt, what he's doing with the character, but I did like this build up for Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara, I presume, at the All Out pay-per-view. TJS with a $5 super chat, first one of the evening. Thank you for that, TJS. He says, were there too many tag matches on AEW? Holla, holla, holla. Do you miss Excalibur? Also, is Darby Allin doomed to be a B-plus player? Answer at the end. I do feel like sometimes AEW overdoes it with the tag matches. Now, it is one of their strengths, but I do like a balance, and I think sometimes AEW tends to do too many tag matches on one show. Next week, it's going to be even more of that because it's a tag team special. It's a tag team themed episode of Dynamite, Tag Team Appreciation Night. At the very least, you should not do two in a row. Like, if you're going to do two tag matches on a show, do one at the beginning and one at the end. We had that first match, which was a 12-man match, and then we had another tag match after that. And then I'll talk about Darby Allin at the end here because that's the main event segment. We had Santana and Ortiz, as I mentioned earlier, there was a follow-up. They, of course, vandalized the SUV. They vandalized the van. They took a sledgehammer. I'm not sure if they jacked it from Triple H, went to the PC or the Full Sail University and grabbed one, but they took a sledgehammer. They destroyed the SUV. They spray painted it. They tagged it. You know, dastardly heels because this is Trent's mom's SUV. How dare they do this to Trent's mom, those bastards. We had the Dark Order guys, not part of the six-man match. So John Silver and Alex Reynolds, 7 and 8, 9 or 10, I'm not even sure, up against Matt Cardona, formerly Zack Ryder, and Cody Rhodes, or just Cody, whatever you want to call him. This was basically just a match to showcase Matt Cardona. He looked good in the match. It was fine. Kind of predictable. I'm like, yeah, it's basically a squash match. I mean, let's be real here. It's two random guys from the Dark Order. It's not Brody Lee. So, you know, just a showcase for Cardona. And he picked up the pinfall, of course, with the Radio Silence finisher, formerly the Rough Rider. 1, 2, 3, picked up the victory. And then as Cody and Matt were leaving, we had Scorpio Sky show up and confront Cody at the circle entranceway, and he put his finger towards the championship, basically challenging Cody to a match on next week's show for the TNT title. So the TNT title challenge will continue next week. Dylan's Wrestling Stuff with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Dylan. He says, hey, Aaron, I thought tonight was one of the best episodes of Dynamite. Well, we did have a couple of really interesting angles on this show, like the Matt Hardy one, and then there's a couple other ones I'll talk about. One of the best episodes, I don't know if I would go that far, but I did think that there were some really good things on this show. We had Trent find out what happened to his SUV, and he was, of course, upset, and he said that Santana and Ortiz can do whatever they want, but do not touch his mom's van, and they're gonna get a rematch. Ortiz and Santana will get a rematch, but after the Best Friends win, Trent said they're gonna have to apologize to Trent's mom on speakerphone. A little bit silly here, like they're supposed to be pissed off, but then they go right back to comedy, but it was fine. Then we had the great debate. Not the great no DQ debate, but we had the Super Wednesday debate with Orange Cassidy, Chris Jericho, and the special guest moderator, Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff making his AEW debut. People on Twitter were freaking out. The spoiler came out about this last week. A guy on Reddit leaked it. So that was true. Twice now that guy has been correct about spoilers. Tony Khan, you might want to check into this. You don't want people accusing you of running a sloppy shop here with these spoilers getting out. And yeah, this was just a one-off with Bischoff. It's not like he's going to be there every week. I mean, he could end up being there every week, but I believe this was just a one-time deal for him to come in. And, you know, Tony Schiavone made a big deal about how this was Bischoff's first appearance on TNT in, what was it, 2 decades, since probably the end of WCW. Like, I know he was not there in the arena, but he did a phone call on the next to last Nitro, I believe, right before the news broke about Vince buying the company. I think his last in-person appearance on Nitro was during the storyline with Vince Russo, so that would have been like June of 2000. So yeah, about roughly 20 years since the last time Eric Bischoff actually made an in-person appearance on a TNT broadcast. So anyways, Jericho made fun of Orange Cassidy for being dressed for the occasion. You know, of course, Cassidy was just wearing his usual attire. Cassidy put on a tie to satisfy Jericho. Jericho basically said, everybody laughs at Cassidy. He's a flash in the pan. Bischoff asked Cassidy for a rebuttal. Cassidy said nothing. So Bischoff moved on, asked about who's the better wrestler. Jericho said he is, of course. 50 championships around the world. Orange Cassidy once again said nothing. And then Bischoff asked about global warming and the rising sea levels. Jericho was upset. He was like, what does this have to do with the match? Jericho did not answer this question, but Orange Cassidy grabbed the microphone and he talked. Not quite as epic as when Sting talked for the first time, but pretty big moment here. Orange Cassidy talking for the first time in AEW, and he answered Bischoff's question about the rising sea levels and global warming very detailed. This was impressive. Orange Cassidy knows what's going on in the world. And then we had the next question, which was back to the match, and once again, Orange Cassidy had nothing to say about that. Jericho called Cassidy a pimple, said he's going to pop the pimple on next week's show. And then finally, Cassidy started to talk again, and this time it was about the match. He told Jericho to shut up. He said that, of course, Jericho would set up a debate against a guy who doesn't talk. He said he doesn't care about Jericho. He does, however, care about next week. It's the biggest match of his life and the biggest match of Jericho's life, for that matter. Because if Jericho loses, what's going to happen to Jericho when he loses to the guy that puts his hands in his pockets? He said he's going to embarrass Jericho next week. And Bischoff declared Orange Cassidy the winner of this great debate. Jericho was very pissed off. And I have to say, Jericho's reaction when Cassidy started answering the rising sea level question, Jericho was fantastic here. Jericho said he's not going to wait until next week. He's going to kick the shit out of Cassidy. And then he had, of course, Jake Hager do his bidding. And then Jericho hit the Judas effect after Hager beat down Cassidy. Best Friends came out, but they were a little too late. Jericho already did the damage. Really good segment here. I enjoyed it, and like I said, it was pretty epic to finally hear Orange Cassidy talk for the first time. And the stipulation next week, if Cassidy loses, he has to pay back the $7,000 to fix Jericho's jacket or replace the jacket or whatever. But yes, I did enjoy the segment. and I like the build up, and I like what's going on with Orange Cassidy. Bischoff did his role fine. He was just there to moderate. It was fine. But yeah, the real strength of this I thought was Jericho, though. Jericho reacting to Orange Cassidy really made the segment, in my opinion. We had Tony Schiavone talking to Britt Baker, wanting to know who Britt was going to choose to face Big Swole. And Britt ended up picking her assistant, Reba. We had this match. Reba, of course, was not happy. She was in her street clothes. It was Big Swole coming back from her suspension in the storyline, of course, against Britt Baker, or not Britt Baker, Reba. Britt was out there coaching Reba with a megaphone, I should say, channeling Jimmy Hart. And then it was a pretty short match. Reba got on the top, went for a moonsault. She missed it. Swole knocked her out, pinned her 1, 2, 3 to get an opportunity to face Britt Baker. Not sure if Britt's going to be recovered for All Out, but I mean, that's what they've been building up. So looks like we'll be getting that match pretty soon. And yes, Michael Wayne, Caitlin was actually watching Big Brother, so there you go. She chose Big Brother over AEW and NXT. So there you go. We had our main event, Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley. Darby came out with this face cutout of Moxley with an eye missing. Moxley was offended by this. He ripped the mask off. Darby slapped Moxley, so Moxley slapped him back. And Darby was bleeding from the mouth from this slap. So we had some intensity already. Basically, the storyline of this match was that Moxley was way above Darby Allin, but Darby Allin kept fighting. He would not stay down like Moxley wanted him to. Moxley dominated the match, threw Darby off the stage at one point. Darby kept coming back, though. He did a somersault dive off the top to the outside onto Moxley. And it was back and forth a little bit, but mainly Moxley in control. And then all of a sudden we had Wardlow show up. Wardlow distracted the referee, and that's when MJF grabbed the AEW World title and nailed Moxley with it. Moxley was busted open. We had blood once again on this show. Moxley busted open, and we had Darby hit the coffin drop for the closest near fall that I've seen in a while. I mean, it was literally like 2 9/10. Moxley managed to kick out at the very last split second from this coffin drop. Darby went for a second one, but then Moxley countered it into a submission, which Darby somehow managed to fight out of. He started going for the eyes of Moxley. Moxley hit a pile driver. Darby kicked out of that. And then finally, Moxley hit another paradigm shift, or actually just one paradigm shift, to pick up the victory. Hard-fought match here, and right afterwards, Moxley was embracing Darby and hugging him. MJF was watching backstage, very frustrated that his plan backfired. Really good main event here. Moxley and Darby have good chemistry together, and Moxley made Darby look good. So I liked it. Nice ending to the show. You build up the MJF match. Overall, good show. I don't think it was a top-tier AEW show, but I think it was quite good. So I'm going to give it a solid B for this week's AEW. What did you guys think? Was it a top-tier AEW? To me, the strongest parts of the show, the main event, the Jericho Orange Cassidy debate, and the Matt Hardy angle with Sammy Guevara. Those were the three biggest parts of the show for me. Gary gave it an A-. Kim Hall with an A-. Nick with an A. Michael Wayne gives it a B. Kev gives it a B. So pretty solid grades here for AEW. Some liked it more than I did. Again, I don't think it was at the level of the best AEW shows when you had fans. But for an empty arena show, it was pretty good. CC Drink gives it a B. Dale Campbell gives it an A. Lewis gives it an A. So quite a few A's for this show. Some B's, some A's. AEW once again putting on a solid performance from everybody. And Nathan Washington also gives it an A. So that was my thoughts on AEW this week. Good build up for All Out. I will be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, to discuss the NXT show. We had some developments as far as TakeOver goes and a big angle to close out the show. I did see that, but I will talk about that tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Tune in. Thank you all for your continued support and viewership, and I will see you guys next time.